16 January 2017. Questions and answers for a world in crisis. Good morning. As you now know, this site is devoted to the most pressing questions and answers of the world today, especially those that concern our youth. There are more than 120 topics already, and more will come from students and teachers, young professionals and seekers. We invite your participation in sending us topics for consideration. Any we do not already have, we will gladly add to the list. You may write to me at narada12@gmail.com. That is NARADA, the number 12, @gmail.com. Today's topic is illness. Our answers are always taken from the writings of Sri Aurobindo and the Mother. So from the Mother we have the following. Wake up in yourself a will to conquer, not a mere will in the mind, but a will in the very cells of your body. Without that, you can't do anything. You may take 100 medicines, but they won't cure you unless you have a will to overcome the physical illness. The body should reject illness as energetically as we reject falsehood in the mind. To keep quiet and to concentrate, leaving the force from above to do its work, is the surest way to be cured of anything and everything. There is no illness that can resist that if it is done properly, in time and long enough, with a steady faith and a strong will. 6 December 1934. Establish a greater peace and quietness in your body. That will give you the strength to resist attacks of illness. 22nd October 1935. The imperative condition for cure is calm and quietness. Any agitation, any nervousness prolongs the illness. 26 November 1969. It is a question of receptivity. I am doing the best that can be done for him, but he goes on thinking that he is ill. All the time he is busy with that idea, and he has made a strong formation of illness around him. He is unable to receive my help because of this formation. Let him discard the idea of illness, and more than half the trouble will be over, and it will be easy to cure him. Again from Mother. Things that do not want to change in your nature join together and come out in the form of illness. The only thing to be done is to have a strong aspiration and a total change. Then everything will be all right. When physical disorder comes, one must not be afraid. One must not run away from it, must face it with courage, calmness, confidence, with the certitude that illness is a falsehood, and that if one turns entirely in full confidence, with a complete quietude to the divine grace, it will settle in these cells as it establishes itself in the depths of the being. And the cells themselves will share in the eternal truth and delight. The suggestions that create illness or unhealthy conditions of the physical being come usually through the subconscious. For a great part of the physical being, the most material part is subconscious. That is to say, it has an obscure consciousness of its own, but so obscure and shut up in itself that the mind does not know its movements or what is going on there. But all the same, it is a consciousness and can receive suggestions from forces outside, just as the mind and vital do. If it were not so, there would not be any possibility of opening it to the force, and the force curing it. For without this consciousness in it, it would not be able to respond. In Europe and America, there are many people now who recognize this fact and treat their illnesses by making conscious mental suggestions to the body, which counteract the obscure secret suggestions of illness in the subconscious. There was a famous doctor in France who cured thousands of people by making them persistently put such counter-suggestions upon the body. That proves that illness has not a purely material cause, but is due to a disturbance of the secret consciousness in the body. Sri Aurobindo. There is a sort of protection round the body, which we call the nervous envelope. If this remains strong and refuses entrance to the illness force, then one can remain well even in the midst of plague or other epidemics. If the envelope is pierced or weak, then the illness can come in. They, the subtle forces of illness, first weaken or break through the nervous envelope, the aura. If that is strong and whole, 1,000 million germs will not be able to do anything to you. The envelope pierced, they attack the subconscious mind in the body, sometimes also the vital mind or mind proper. Prepare the illness by fear or thought of illness. The doctors themselves say that in influenza or cholera in the Far East, 90% get ill through fear. Nothing to take away the resistance like fear. But still, The subconscious is the main thing. If the contrary force is strong in the body, one can move in the midst of plague and cholera and never get contaminated. Sri Aurobindo. Again, attacks of illness are attacks of the lower nature or of adverse forces taking advantage of some weakness, opening, or response in the nature. Like all other things that come and have got to be thrown away, they come from outside. If one can feel them so coming and get the strength and the habit to throw them away before they can enter the body, then one can remain free from illness. I am going through a state in which the illness seems to have stopped all aspiration, all concentration. Is such a state inevitable? Sri Aurobindo. It need not come if one is able to detach oneself from the body and the sense of illness. By detaching yourself, you must make it easier for the mother's force to work on the body. That is the object. Reject the movement of the vital physical and affirm the principle of health. The vital desires to be ill. Throw out the desire. Question. How has the vital physical become like this? Formerly it did not want the illness. It was the mind that did not want it. This vital, when left to itself, often wants illness. It finds it dramatic, thinks it makes it interesting to others, likes to indulge the tamas, etc., etc. It is no use stopping work because of rheumatism, unless it is of the kind that disables one from working. It only makes things worse. What is the yogic method of getting rid of a pain or illness? Sri Aurobindo. To separate yourself from the thing and call in the mother's force to cure it. Or else to use your will force with faith in the power to heal, having the support of the mother's force behind you. If you cannot use either of these methods, then you must rely on the action of the medicines. Question. What are physical ailments? Are they attacks by hostile forces from outside? Sri Aurobindo. There are two factors that have to be considered in the matter. There is what comes from outside, and there is what comes from your inner condition. Your inner condition becomes a cause of illness when there is a resistance or revolt in it, or when there is some part of you that does not respond to the protection. Or even there may be something there that almost willingly and willfully calls in the adverse forces. It is enough if there is a slight movement of this kind in you. The hostile forces are at once upon you, and their attack takes often the form of illness. More answers from Sri Aurobindo. Certainly, one can act from within on an illness and cure it. Only it is not always easy, as there is much resistance in matter, a resistance of inertia. An untiring persistence is necessary. At first, one may fail altogether, or the symptoms increase. But gradually, the control of the body or of a particular illness becomes stronger. Again, to cure an occasional attack of illness by inner means is comparatively easy. To make the body immune from it in future is more difficult. A chronic malady is harder to deal with, more reluctant to disappear entirely than an occasional disturbance of the body. So long as the control of the body is imperfect, there are all these and other imperfections and difficulties in the use of the inner force. Again from Sri Aurobindo. Your theory of illness is rather a perilous creed, for illness is a thing to be eliminated, not accepted or enjoyed. There is something in the being that enjoys illness. It is possible even to turn the pains of illness, like any other pain, into a form of pleasure. For pain and pleasure are both of them degradations of the original Ananda, and can be reduced into the terms of each other, or else sublimated into their original principle of Ananda. It is true also that one must be able to bear illness with calm, equanimity, endurance, even recognition of it, since it has come as something that had to be passed through in the course of experience. But to accept and enjoy it means to help it to last, and that will not do. For illness is a deformation of the physical nature, just as lust, anger, jealousy, etc. are deformations of the vital nature. And error and prejudice and indulgence of falsehood are deformations of the mental nature. All these have to be eliminated, and rejection is the first condition of their disappearance, while acceptance has a contrary effect altogether. All illnesses pass through the nervous or vital physical sheath of the subtle consciousness and subtle body before they enter the physical. If one is conscious of the subtle body, or with the subtle consciousness, one can stop an illness on its way and prevent it from entering the physical body.